Hello, Samadan here, and today we're going to talk about all the things that have been going on in the World of Warcraft and gold making. I'll go through the Wowhead blog as well as everything that's been happening in my own gold making. So let's start with my own. Let's have a look at where we've been at the moment. I swap on over to the main scene. So in terms of Samadan, we had our very nice sales over Christmas with the Mage Tower event, and we've been ticking through a few sales in the meantime since then. Now, interesting thing you'll note, obviously this is my last month, and obviously I was up here at 5.5 million and we dropped right down to 5 million. So where's my spending going? Well, after all the talk about legendaries, I did decide that I'm going to have a look at what I can do. And so I've done some investments, and I've started at least going into one of the legendaries a bit further. So in this case, Bridget, my jewel crafter, has been working on her Shadowghast rings. I've got up to, I think, rank 3 at the moment. I've tried using a few vestiges to get those up to rank 5. Might get a few sales of those. Had a couple already, and the usual other things ticking through, so I don't want to go too low in my gold making. Maybe around this 5 million mark might keep me just enough buoyant for the moment. We've had some sales, some Jade Panther sales, some things like that. My individual characters have been, well, they've been spending money, so not much money to be made here at the moment yet. A typical mailbox for me at this sort of time is the occasional enchants, things like that. I've got a whole load of stuff to relist on here anyway, so I'll go through and do those later. So for me, it's really a question of just looking at what I can do in terms of getting myself prepared for 9.2. So that's been the main focus, really. I mean, what do we need to do for 9.2 with the new legendary system, with the second legendary coming out? There's all the news on that, and I'll go through that on the blog. So here we have the blog for this week, number 210. So getting into the run of things up for 9.2. So 210th edition, we're going to discuss the legendary market, how that's been affected by the new Covenant legendary that's come over on the PTR. We're also going to have a look at one of the kind of often maligned and misrepresented gold making methods, and that's transmog farming. So I'll have a little talk about that as well. And there's a couple of nice videos that we found over this week as well, which I'll touch on. So first, the main topic, obviously, 9.2 legendary update. So we've now learned a little bit more about the second legendary, this Cord of Unity, which is a waste item that you can pick up from, there's mainly this one vendor, this Vilo person, that you can get to quite quickly. The thing that's caused a lot of controversy this week is obviously the reputation requirement, requiring enlightened, revered. It doesn't really come as a big surprise at this point. There's going to have to be some sort of barrier to entry to this kind of thing. It's interesting to note that all the recipes that are going to be useful for gold making are kind of part of this. So we've got not just the Cord of Unity and the Memory of Unity for the legendary crafting. We've also got the Crafter's Mark 4 and Crafter's, where is it down here? Let me just scroll down where I've got them here. Crafter's Mark 4, Crafter's Mark are the first ones, and the Tome of Eternal. These are all going to require the Enlightened on it, so it will be a question of thinking about, okay, what are we going to do with our alt characters? How much are we going to have to get through this reputation grind to be able to at least do, I would say, the Crafter's Mark 4 and the Tome of Eternals, especially if you're looking into doing legendaries. Crafter's Mark of the first ones is kind of like Crafter's Mark of the Chained Isle. That's going to need revered. These require honoured. But let me jump back up to the top, because I'm scattershot all over the place here. So what do we know about this so far? So obviously we've got this Cord of Unity at the moment. Item level 265, which seems a little bit low. Maybe that will change over time. There's a lot of talk. People are talking about, okay, so this is kind of like the free item that's just going to cost you a few gold, but it may be optimal to put this somewhere else. You can see with the Memory of Unity that it can be applied to anywhere. Here, Lazy Goldmaker has a video, rune carve on head, neck, shoulder, chest, waist, the whole lot. So what this I think is going to mean, and both Manthius and Lazy Goldmaker touched on this in their videos going over this, and they're more in depth into the legendary market than myself, but even so, what the premise is here is there's going to be a whole load of min-maxing between the existing legendary and what's going to be optimal then, because obviously we've got the whole tier sets now, we've got they don't have the domination gear now, and we're going to have the have the Covenant legendary, and what's going to balance, what's going to be the best slot to put that on. And I'm sure all the theory crafters and the competitive WoW people will go, okay, you're going to do this, and you're going to do this for this class, race spec, and all that kind of thing. And then out of that will come a list of, okay, you'll need this item and this slot and this item and this slot. So the legendary market, as Mantheus and Lazy Goldmaker predict, and I think they're right on this one, is that it's open season again. Because we had with 9.1.5, we had all of the the focus was on the cloak and the ring and the neck. Originally with the legendary system, it was all over lots and lots of different best in slots, so you could either focus on a few or you could spread yourself across all of them. And I think we're going to see this happen again with 9.2. Obviously the casual player will probably pick up this belt because it's relatively easy to get hold of once you've got the required reputation, and then that gives you a nice item level boost, which I think a lot of people will be quite happy with, and they'll probably just leave it at that. However, those that like to min-max and the hardcore raiders will be doubling down on different slots, and so that's where our world comes alive in terms of gold making. Although, that said, legendary market is really expensive to get into, so if you don't have the legendaries set up already, it's going to be very expensive to get into at the moment. People are stockpiling the materials now. If you're not in the legendary market yourself, obviously farming the materials that we required for this is always an opportunity. Plus then we've got the Crafter's Mark 4 and Crafter's Mark are the first ones, which in the past, these kind of things have been very steady gold makers in addition to legendaries or instead of legendaries. So if you're looking to do something a bit different, then I would focus on those. And then there's all the other recipes as well. So very exciting times. I think there's going to be a lot of preparation. We don't know exactly when 9.2 is going to release. The talk is maybe beginning of February at the earliest. And I think people are talking now that certain information has come out that 25th of March at the very latest, I think. So sometime between then. So it's not long now. So whatever preparation you can do, get your characters ready. I had a little look on the PTR. It seems it's quite easy to get into Zereth Mortis, even if you haven't got all the campaign done. So as long as you're level 60, you should be good to get in there. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We'll obviously see when it goes live. So obviously there's a lot still to discover on this, and obviously this being PTR, take some of this information with a pinch of salt. But I think legendaries are here to stay. I think this is going to be the final big sale period of legendaries. So if you're looking to make some gold this season, then I think this is going to be your opportunity. So moving on from that, going back to the very beginning of things, Rosie has done a really nice video that just goes through all the basics of gold making, the different methods, and how to go about them. And this is relevant to right now with Shadowlands. So if you are looking to get into gold making, this gives you a really nice list of different things to do. Go through callings, weekly quests, the mission table, auction house, the basics of that, gathering professions, flipping, crafting, transmog farming, mountain toy farming, and raw gold farming. So this is a really nice introduction to the concepts of gold making and what the different ways are. I mean, I would always recommend with something like this, just have a look at the video and see if there's anything that takes your fancy. If you think it might be fun, then go ahead and do that. Try it out. See if it works for you. Everyone's gold making journey is different, so there's no one thing that has to be done this way. By all means, whatever's fun for you, do that. And if you can make some gold along the way, then that's great. It all depends on what your goals are really in the future. So if you're really started in gold making, then I highly recommend this video. There's one topic that I go into a little bit deeper here in terms of this. Was a really interesting post, it criticizes those clickbaity kind of YouTube videos that say, oh, I made this much gold an hour doing transmog farming, which obviously those are designed to get views and things like that. But I don't think that's the real point really of this particular post, which was talking about, okay, what's the reality of transmog farming? Transmog farming is one of the things that people often turn to first when they're looking into gold making, because it seems relatively easy. You're overpowered for these dungeons. It's kind of fun to go through. Touch on this here. I really enjoy running old dungeons. Don't know why, but it feels kind of therapeutic, and I can relate to that definitely. You just you don't have to think about it too much, and it feels really good just being able to run through and one-shot everything. And then that that little element of luck. If you get something that's potentially worth a lot, is obviously a lot of incentive in terms of gold making. I know with the way things have gone now with the vendor sale price of a lot of things, there's not a lot you can do now about that. There's not a huge amount of raw gold that you make just from vendoring things, so you are reliant on selling this to other players. And this is where, okay, where's the balance? Do you try and sell everything that you find on these dungeon runs, or do you just pick some of the high ticket items if you get lucky enough to get them? There's a whole discussion about sort of the prices of things are obviously being quite inflated if you look at the TSM prices. I think there's a lot of room here. I think overall, transmog farming, definitely not what a lot of people probably think it is. I think there's a big misconception here, definitely. They see the big numbers and they think their total auction value is worth that, but it's really about volume. If you're going to get into the transmog market, I never recommend it as a first port of call, but I always think of it as a secondary market, that if you happen to have done a few dungeons and you have a few items that might be worth a lot, I mean, and the key here is might, it's all about your luck on A, getting that item, and B, having the sale of that item for whatever price you put it on for. And this Snowpoint comes up with very large inventory and low sales are the go-to. The point of never really paying attention to any single transmog item, and to really not trying to sell something for an overinflated price. Look at the region sale average, and you'll see that in TSM is quite a bit lower, which can give you an indication of an underpriced item. There's a Want to Buy Gold video, which I'll link to further down, and he's gone through all the transmog side of things in terms of like how much is this really worth, and does it really sell, and what price does it sell for. And Want to Buy Gold has done a lot more transmog farming than me, so I'd take his word for it as well, definitely. This post was talking more about the sort of the positive side of things, yes, and it's very realistic. First thing is always bring up is quantity. You need to have a reasonably large stock. Should be more like 1.5 to 2,000, which I think is and that's a low estimate, yeah. At least 1,000 different mogs up, 1.5 to 2,000. Some would say even 6,000, which then becomes a bit unmanageable. So you have to balance up the price of things, how often you want to relist things. So again, having a variety of items, and then this is something we also touched upon, and I think is a good point, is crafted transmog. That's the transmog that you get through collecting rare recipes and also looks pretty cool. That's a really good market to go for. So you're not necessarily going for the drops themselves, but you're looking to get the recipes to make something that looks really good. And yes, there is a time investment with this, and anything with the barrier to entry, then you can raise your profit margins on, basically. My summary here is basically, so yes, whilst the criticism might be directed towards YouTube videos and inflated headlines, the reality here is really knowing what you're getting into and the scale of the operation involved. So if you find it fun and you like running these old dungeons, then by all means go for it, and you can make a bit of gold on the side. That's great, but I wouldn't necessarily do it for the sole purpose of earning gold. It's certainly a lot less lucrative now than it used to be with the vendor sale prices. If you want to invest your time, I would always recommend something like put that time into maximizing the mission tables or working on professions for the crafted transmog or something like that. And then there's the link to the video here by Want to Buy Gold. It's a couple of years old now, but it's still very much relevant in today's market. So transmog, love it or hate it, people still like to do it, and there's no reason why not to. So I think it's pretty well covered here in this summary, from all perspectives certainly. And to finish things off for this week's blog, a nice video put together by Penguin that includes a few gold makers, myself included, Zanzibar, Dirty Irby and Penguin herself, going through what the best sellers for 2021 were. And the thing I liked about this video is we all put our individual input into the what was best for us in terms of 2021. And it's amazing how different everyone's gold making methods are, which is what I love about gold making, the fact that we can all do something different, still enjoy it, and still get some gold at the end of the day. So if you want to look into different methodologies, a lot of these things will still be relevant in the future as well. Dirty Irby's legendaries, and with myself with the Mage Tower, that's going to come around again, and Zanzibar talking about the living steel transmutes and things like that, which is really useful. So these are still relevant gold making methods into 2022 and beyond. So that pretty much is a quick run through the blog. If you want to go through and read it, obviously this will be going live the same sort of time as my video goes live. So go through, have a digest, go have a look at the actual links to some of these Reddit posts. and have a watch of the videos, because then you'll get a broader range of the information that I've pretty much just tried to summarize here at the moment. As for myself, I'm going to carry on shopping, see if I can do whatever progression I can to get my characters ready for 9.2 whenever it arrives. I'm pretty much there in terms of they're all level 60, all my profession characters. I'll see what I can do in terms of legendaries. The temptation is to spend a lot of money to get into them, but I'm going to just work my way through one at a time and see if I can build them up. If I look at what I have available here on Legendary Stock Tracker, there's not a huge amount here just yet, so we'll have a look at this and see what we get. So I've still got a lot of work here to do to fill out my recipe collection, especially in the leatherworking and blacksmithing side of things. The tailoring side I've got into a pretty decent state at this point, so we'll see how things go beyond that. But I don't want to just throw all my gold away at it. I'll see if I can get some sales, but then I'll just carry on to see if I can make some consistent gold in my normal methodologies. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you a little insight as to what's been going on in the world of gold making. If you do have any questions, please do either leave a comment on this video or in the Wowhead blog itself. I'm looking forward to hearing what you might be doing in terms of preparation for 9.2 and what you're doing to make some gold now, just until it arrives. So until next time, happy gold making, and I'll see you very soon.